Hey everybody, Navah Hopkins joined by my amazing PPC puppy HK, and we are on the hunt for some shenanigans because, as you may or may not know, Google did Melissa Mackey and her client dirty by turning on Audience Network or turning on the display expansion without her say so. How she found it out was in the change history, seeing that it got re-enabled even after it she had turned it off. But I got to tell you something. If you're an Optmyzr customer, there are actually a lot of proactive protections that you can take advantage of. I'll go over them in detail, but at the heart of it, you want to make sure that just in case a placement gets added into your campaigns that you don't intend, that you're able to remove it. But you also want to make sure that you're keeping an eagle eye on certain red flag metrics. The number one red flag metric when it comes to those little inclusions is impressions. And the reason for that is that the display expansion is going to exceed far and away anything else that you would get search wise. Now, this is not going to be necessarily the case with Performance Max. Performance Max is different. It's all inclusive of video and display and discover. And we as marketers know that when we opt into Performance Max, we are opting into that increase in impressions. This is specifically traditional search campaigns. So before we dive into the tools themselves, I want to make sure that all of you are aware again of that distinction. When you build a search campaign, you are given the option to opt into the search network, which are third-party sites that have insight search powered by Google, as well as additional sites that are part of their network, as well as display placements with display expansion. Now, if you take the time to add an image extension or an image asset and you're intending to do it, it is an absolutely valid strategy. I have fully recanted my hatred of display expansion because it can actually be a really valid way to get performance max gains while still retaining the control of traditional search. However, if you do not intend to run that, it can absolutely bust your budget and include a lot of false negatives and positives, either on how cheap the placements are, but then you're performing badly, or better yet, you see yourself getting all of this traffic, but none of it's converting. So let's go ahead and take a look at how you can solve these problems with Optmyzr. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So where I am now is actually the alert section where we're creating an alert. This is the test account for Optmyzr, so no customer data is being shown. And as you can see, I've set the metric that I want to follow as impressions. And the reason, again, that I want impressions to be what I'm monitoring is that if my impressions spike quite a bit, that's a really good sign that display got added into the mix. Now, within Optmyzr, when you choose advanced settings, you can set a deviation. So it is totally normal sometimes for a campaign to have more impressions than you intend. However, in this particular case, we are setting that 20%. So say, for example, 50% more impressions happen, we want to know about it. Now, I set this number fairly low, 500 impressions set for 4 weeks. Ideally, we would have considerably more than that. But this is where your knowledge of your business is going to come in. These are all kind of fake numbers. And I also have this set to any campaign. It's important to note that this tool can be set across multiple accounts. So if you want to set it for your franchise and you have multiple accounts, you can do it that way. But typically, accounts will have different measures of success. So I personally recommend setting this at the individual campaign level and just having multiple alerts. But if you know that your accounts will behave in the same way, absolutely go for it. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you is actually our placement exclusions. And for those of you that aren't aware, Optmyzr has a handy dandy search tool. So look for our optimized display placement exclusions. And this is going to be that tool that will really help us solve the problem of how to exclude placements that we don't really necessarily want. And in this particular case, there's nothing because this is the test account. We don't have anything here. But if you did have any bad placements that didn't meet the required performance gains, you would get those here. Now, there's a couple of other handy dandy spot checking tools that you can use within Optmyzr. And for that, we're going to go to our dashboard. Now, on the dashboard, we have our change history checker. We also will be able to take a look at just overall performance. So when we're looking at our performance changes, if we see that there's a really big tick, we absolutely can dive into that specifically with the PPC investigator. And you can look at clicks, but as I mentioned, like to look at also impressions, but we can also look at conversions, conversion value, average CPC is a good indicator to take a look at. You see your average CPC go way down. That's a really good sign that display got added. We also, though, I want to show our change history. The change history made in the last 30 days. And when we look at our details, we can see what changes were made and how many of them were made from a human versus an automation. So we definitely want to make sure that we're looking at our auto-applied changes and seeing what's there and how they may have spiked. This handy dandy tool also show us, again, and I encourage you to use impressions as your guiding point for this, how our impressions may have changed in relation to any of these changes. So just as a final note about this, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Google is not a malicious entity. Most of these things are not done from a place of malice. However, there are some times when the algorithm gets it wrong and a change will be made in spite of the fact that you opted out of something or you did whatever. Make sure that you dot your I's, cross your T's, and capture that information of that you opted out of something. Take the screenshot, and that way you have proof and receipts so you can get that credit back just like Melissa Mackey did. And again, Optmyzr fully supports and embraces all strategies on the path to success. This is not saying that display expansion is bad. This is not saying that performance max is bad. This is not saying that just traditional search with nothing else on manual bidding is bad. All strategies have a place. What matters is, are they making money for you? And if you are being pushed into a strategy that you don't feel comfortable with and that is losing you money, you want to be able to mitigate it to stop it. Again, thank you so much for investing the time. Hope you found this helpful. Navah Hopkins from Optmyzr signing off. Cheers.